Never made it as a wise man. I couldn't cut it as a poor man stealing. Okay, so as I'm recording this morning, I went ahead and saw the Michael movie. Now, I know I'm a little bit late, but I actually found it quite good, despite the fact that it was a little bit rushed. I kept on seeing a common theme throughout the entire movie. And no, it wasn't Joe whipping Mike's ass, although that was there a lot. I kept seeing practices of manifestation. It was scattered throughout the entire movie, and I just wanted to talk about that and kind of break it down into a few things. And the first of those things is no goals equals no results. So to actually manifest what you want, you first have to set concrete goals and know exactly what you are working towards. One quote that I heard from the movie that really stuck with me was something along the lines of, if you can see it, you can do it. And I think the reason why it stuck with me so much is because for like the majority of my life, I didn't really achieve much because I didn't even know what outcome I wanted out of the things I was doing. A good example of this would be like the gym. When I first started working out, I wasn't making any progress whatsoever because I didn't even know how I wanted to look. I wasn't tracking what I was doing day to day, and I was just kind of going at it by day basis, like kind of going with the flow, right? And then fast forward, like maybe starting 2 years ago, I actually envisioned the physique I wanted, and I started tracking my calories, and my physique started to improve much greater than like the 3+ years of working out beforehand. And that's where I was like, oh, okay, it's not impossible. I just wasn't clear with what I wanted. Now, I have a little quote from Albert Einstein. I'm not one of those people that just throw out a quote randomly with like no elaboration whatsoever. Like one of those like 2020 business motivational posts. I'll throw one up on the screen to give you an example of it. But I feel like he has kind of a little bit of street cred, so I'll go ahead and say it. He says, "The world as we have created it is a process of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking." Now, this is a great quote, and I've actually kind of skimmed around the topic in my last video. For all of us who are pretty privileged and don't have to worry about hunting as their source of food or living in a hut for shelter, a lot of the problems we face in life are curated by other people. Now, it got me thinking, if they're curated by other people, then who's to say I can't create the solutions for it, because I'm just another one of those people. And I think the reason why I was having so much trouble in the past was because I kept on changing my goals and didn't actually focus and envision a concrete one, which meant I didn't see any outcomes because I didn't even know what outcome I wanted in the first place. And then when I was finally able to see what kind of outcome I wanted, I had to stop and think and say, how do I even achieve this? And then the answer came to me, I have to constantly drill it into my head that I am the kind of person that is able to achieve this outcome. And as soon as you start to do that, you're going to notice that people are a little bit off put by what you're doing. I don't know who the hell drilled this into our culture, but people seem to see positivity as a form of arrogance. Like when you were in high school, have you ever had a situation where your friend was like talking mad shit about a teacher and you're like, I actually think we learned a lot from their class. And they look at you like you just co-signed Pol Pot or something like that. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Though, despite what they may say to you, they're not actually blocking you from doing what you need to do. I think the biggest block is yourself. And I'm not afraid to admit I am my biggest enemy. You know, if I had a list of all of my ops, it'd just be my name written all across the entire document. And it would all be because I worry about outcomes that I don't even want anyways. So there'd really be no point in worrying about them because I didn't want them. And I think this kind of anxiety was installed in me at a very young age to be kind of pessimistic about everything because you don't know what's going to happen the next day or even hour. I don't think pessimism is entirely a bad thing, but if it completely rules your thoughts, then there's a problem. And it wasn't until I met a really good friend now who embodied the idea of always seeing the brighter side of things to change my outlook on life, to be more positive and think, hey, okay, this is happening now, but what's the best possible scenario that can arise because of it? Because I already know the worst one, so what's the best? For example, let's say I'm on the way to achieving an outcome, and I hit a couple problems on the way. Instead of just sitting there and like moping around and being like, oh, now it's impossible because I face these problems, I have to change my mindset completely. First off, I have to be like, okay, problems, issues, whatever, are a natural part of this process. Then I have to change my mindset from saying, oh, these are in my way, these are a nuisance, to being like, oh, okay, these can provide me some valuable learning opportunities that I can use to even better achieve my outcome, or help me after I've already achieved the outcome. And when you start to think like that, it starts to make the process seem completely effortless. And you go, wow, that didn't even feel like work. And speaking of work, you have to show up every single day and be consistent. Now, my biggest problem has always been consistency, and I 100% will get better. One thing that I hear a lot is if you never quit, you can essentially never fail. Meaning that if you show up every single day, the timing of when you might want a specific outcome may not be promised, but it's more than certain that you will 100% achieve it at some point in time if you just keep on doing the things you need to do to get it. And it's going to be fine completely so long as it's the thing you really want. And that's what brings me on to the next idea. Is it really the thing you want? I find that a lot of people say they want certain things, not for themselves, but the kind of validation that it brings from other people. Now, this is extremely amplified by social media, and this is one of the things I hate. Even for me as well. Like when I still had social media, I used to base my goals on like the values of other people, and I wasn't actually thinking about what I wanted and what would make me happy as compared to what would make me look happy to other people, I guess. And there's no bigger example of this than in my first journal that I started back in like 2021. The front page was like supposed to be a manifestation list, but it was just like complete materialist garbage, and it wasn't actually stuff that would make me feel better as a person. It's just stuff that would make me look better in the eyes of other people. I notice a lot of the great historical figures of the past never really did what they did because it would make them look better to other people. Because I found that people's validations, changed and went up or down over time with these people. They would always do it because what they were doing filled some sort of wound, I guess, in their soul, and they just had to do it, so they were obsessed with it, and it was so clear in their mind that they just had to go ahead and go for it. Another thing that I realized is they didn't really chase the things they wanted. They kind of just prepared for them, and when the opportunity came around, they pounced on it. And this is an example of the law of attraction. Now, I didn't really understand it when I was younger. I was like, oh, okay, you're telling me my goals come to me? Okay, I'm just going to sit down there and do nothing. No, you actually have to put in the work, but the way in which it comes to you is going to be completely different to what you expected. A great analogy that someone said was, think of it like fishing. Now, if you wanted to, you could like spear or hand fish, but you'd probably end up exhausted and with a lot less fish than someone who just sat there and waited for a pull. Now, when I say sit there, you still have to prepare to go fishing. Like, you don't want to go fishing without a rod or like any of your equipment. That's preparation, right? But you don't choose the time and when the fish bites. The fish chooses the time and when it bites. All you can do is prepare for that bite, and as soon as it arrives, you get that tug, you pull. This was very helpful because I used to always exhaust myself all the time chasing things when I could have just been working towards it and then waiting for it to come, and then using the work and the skills I've learned working towards it to actually go get it. And I think I'm going to cut it there. So keep working, and if it's not helping you get towards your goals, it's just noise. All right, peace.
Enemies. And if my suspicions are correct, they might have something to do with the dragons returning. But that isn't important right now. What is important is that you might be Dragonborn. If you don't trust me, you were a fool to walk in here in the first place. We remember what most don't.